Hey, what's up everyone, this is White Pointer and it's time to explore some video game history again. These days it's pretty normal for video game console makers to have some kind of mascot to help market their system. Mario, Pikachu, Sonic, Crash Bandicoot, Kratos, Master Chief, the list goes on. Back when the industry was very young, however, no such thing really existed. There was a couple of games released on the Odyssey 2 though, that featured a character that, while not technically an official mascot, was probably about as close as you get at the time. The character was Munchkin, star of the games KC Munchkin and KC's Crazy Chase. At its core, the original KC Munchkin game was basically a Pac-Man clone, but it hit store shelves about a year before Atari's awful 2600 port of Pac-Man, and was considered to be a much better game than Atari's version 2. The player controlled Munchkin, a little alien thing where the object was to navigate through a maze, chomping on little dots called munchies, while avoiding enemies, and could power up to temporarily destroy them. It did differ from Pac-Man in a number of key areas though. There were less munchies to eat, the munchies actually moved around the maze, it had more animation, it came with a level editor, and had more variation in gameplay.
When you're hungry for real excitement, munch. When you're hungry for fast action, munch. With Odyssey's new KC Munchkin video game, it's eat or be eaten as you chase through mind-boggling mazes, gobbling up points. And when you're hungry to step up the challenge, punch. Odyssey's computer keyboard lets you program a myriad of mazes all your own. Nobody else's maze game does that. KC Munchkin, available now. Programmed by you.
Despite the differences though, many retailers recognised the obvious similarities, and were advertising the product as a Pac-Man type of game. This didn't please Atari, who had the exclusive rights to produce home versions of Pac-Man, so Atari, along with Midway, who had the arcade rights to Pac-Man, took Philips to court for unfair competition and copyright infringement. Now initially, the trial court found that KC Munchkin did not violate any copyright, deeming that the similarities were needed for a maze chase type of game, and the differences enough to say the game was unique. Atari, however, were not going to take no for an answer, so they filed an appeal. The appeals court focused on the public's perception of the game, whether a casual observer would be able to tell that one game was copied from another, and didn't care so much about the minor differences Philips used to defend themselves with. With this approach, the appeals court overturned the trial court's decision, and Atari won the case, successfully barring KC Munchkin from being sold. However, the game proved to be pretty popular, and a lot of copies were sold before the ruling was handed down, so Philips decided to produce a new game featuring the Munchkin character. This was named KC's Crazy Chase. It was still a maze chase type of game, but in this the player's goal was to chomp off the segments of a big caterpillar, called the Dratapillar, while avoiding the caterpillar's head and other enemies in the maze. Trees also randomly grew in the maze that both the player and the caterpillar could eat, but slowed them down if they did so. This game also made use of the Odyssey 2's voice module.
Watch out! Hurry!
Who's that talking, Wizard of Odyssey?
A voice! Odyssey 2's new voice module warning me of the dreaded Dratapillar in KC's Crazy Chase. Run! Hurry! I'm hurrying! Got you, Dratapillar. Incredible! The voice and new voice games. Only from Odyssey 2, where the keyboard is the key to greater challenge.
Buy Odyssey, get $82 worth of free games, including Quest for the Rings and KC's Crazy Chase.
To further differentiate it from Pac-Man, Munchkin now moved around by rolling, rather than having a constant chomping animation. Like the original game, this was well received, and while Cosmic Arc on the Atari 2600 managed to beat it to market by a few months as the first video game sequel, it was still probably the first sequel that actually starred the same main character. So, when older gamers remember the Odyssey 2, they'll also probably remember the Munchkin games. They were popular and helped to sell the system, and they were, in all likelihood, the first video game console mascots, even if they were the subject of some controversy. I hope you enjoyed that quick look back at a point in video game history that may have been forgotten, and if you have any suggestions for any other subjects you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments. Give me a thumbs up if you liked the video, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with my content. Thanks for watching.